So that was epic. So, well, my name is Younes and I live in Lyon, France, and I'm from WishTech. That's my company, and we do web developing consultant and extreme programming coaching. So, I'm a web developer, trainer, and extreme programming coach. So, I've been extreme programming for more like than 10 years, and I really get passionate about this. And I really get passionate about extreme programming and about the idea of creating value and releasing as quickly as possible without making any trade-off about quality. And that's can be possible. You don't have to go to forget about quality when you want to go fast. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to boost our time to market by dancing the limbo. So don't worry, don't have like to be super flexible. Just chill out, and I'm gonna tell you a story. So this is my team. We're a team of two. There's AB and me. Some people know AB, some don't. Well, anyway. So we had a product to release, and we were really focused on, we split our ID into two pieces of code. So AB had to develop Mr. Brackets, and I had to develop Miss Braces. So Mr. Brackets, Miss Braces are just like pieces of code. Okay, I'm just trying to humanize code a little bit. We don't think about that a lot. Anyway, so day one, we did this traditional Git flow thing, or like to create two different branches. Like every one of us is working on a different branch. So it started with something relatively cute like that. But few days later, you know, you get that notification about reviewing the code of your coworker, but you're so focused on your thing, and you're like, but I have to review the code. I cannot keep her stuck in whatever she's doing. So I checked out her code, and it looked something like that. I didn't remember like the initial project, which was aiming at the beginning, but something was wrong there. I didn't know what. So that was my code review. I was like, okay, maybe we can move back the eye at its place, but I forgot about the legs. Anyway, and I was mainly obsessed about AB's eyes. I wanted the same. I want to cherry pick them. I mean, she got scared about that, but it's not the point. It's just how am I gonna get her code, okay? So that's the traditional thing. Like you got 2 or 3 different branches, you're working on a different code, and you wanna grab some shared code there. So what's the solution? What would you think about? There are so many ways. Like you can just wait for the feature to be merged, or you can just copy paste that code, or rebase or merge or cherry pick. I call this Git spaghetti. You know, or just like start playing with branches. Anyway, so at the meantime, that was my code. I think I over-engineered it, overthought about it, and we were really on a hurry. So we had to find a way to finish this, to move up and work on something else. So after a few days and a few workarounds, this is what AB's code looked like, so Mr. Brackets. And this was my code, okay? So I just gave up some projects for the moment. And then it was time to merge. We all love that moment, you know. That's why we usually take holidays. And this was the result. Remember, I reused the I. So we didn't have any conflict, but we still had issues, you see? So we fixed that a little bit, and we kept working on other stuff until the release day, which was like 3 months later, and AB wasn't on holiday. Actually, she was not on holiday. She was in Tel Aviv for half holidays, half speaking at some Angular React conference, or both, I don't know. And this was the state of the code I was releasing. So there's Miss Braces there, Mr. Brackets, Miss Buggy, and Mr. Hungry. And we had to handle this, and we realized that we had a memory leak. So how do you handle a memory leak in production? You know, that's super hard to find. And at the meantime, I was like, okay, and we had another problem. Mr. Brackets, As you might have noticed, like they got old, Mr. Brackets and Miss Braces, because they've been there for a while, and now we're releasing them finally. And problem is, I couldn't understand Mr. Brackets. I couldn't like interact with it, and I didn't understand why he was not interacting with the other thing. So I started just calling functions on it, okay? And he kept throwing errors at me, and I was like, and why am I doing this? Do we really need Mr. Brackets? So that's when I realized he was actually useless. So he was dead code, actually. So I had to make this hard choice of unplugging him. There's a guy crying there. It's all right. It's all right. We'll find out a solution. And he has kids, so don't worry. Come on. Anyway, Michael. And so the thing is, if there's one thing to remember, so you can just remember this, do you really need branches? And now you can leave. Like, do you really need branches? That's the whole message I want to tell you today. Do you really need branches? What about working on one branch altogether? Not right now, but like in your team. So seriously, when I see this on GitHub or any repo, I'm not talking about open source. Open source is special. But when you're working on a product, when I see this, I see code inventory. You know what code inventory is in extreme programming? It's just you put code there waiting to be released. It's just like you make super burger and you just put it there and you eat it 3 months later. I won't. So this is conflict opportunities. Just where the more you have, more branches you have, the more conflict opportunities you will have. And the only thing I can read is this. Like too many branches, not enough releases. We have to release more and branch less. So what about a single branch? Okay, it might sound crazy, and it is crazy for some projects. So a single branch, what would be the advantages? The first advantage is symmetry. So you have the same code on your computer, on your coworker's computer, on staging, and what about production? Like just the same code everywhere. You don't care about versions. You never think about, oh, is that the code you have on your computer? How do you get it? How do you get that problem? It's working on my side, etc. And you don't have to do any git spaghetti because the whole code is on the same repo, the same branch. Then you get collective ownership because everybody is working on the same thing, the same branch. So if I break something, we're going to work on it together. It's not, I don't work isolated on my branch. Then we can reduce work in progress limit. Work in progress limit is when you have like a team of 5 people and you give them 5 features. They work on 5 branches, so they don't have any conflict for the moment. We're just postponing. And we can reduce work in progress limit by making 5 people working on the same feature. So one will work on a component, one on a service, and we'll keep committing and pushing our code together and releasing and merging like all the time. So, and this will reduce the cycle time, or the time from starting something to finishing it, and the time to market. But still, conflicts are still possible, because if I work on my computer for like an hour or 2, and then I push all my code, it can break a lot of things. So there where comes the idea of Limbo, which is not mine, which is an idea from Kent Beck. I don't know if you know this guy. He's the father of extreme programming, the father of JUnit, and a lot of crazy concepts. And he thought about Limbo like this, like, let's do shared programming, let's work together on the same program and let the production run it. And the goal is to never cause any problem to anyone, not my coworkers, not the users. So, as Chubby Checker's song says, how low can you go? Okay? So you have to think about it. How low, what's the smallest change you can make that you can add to your code? And you have to find out solutions to make it the smallest possible. You got to be as flexible as possible. And what about working on the same branch and you open a terminal and you run this the whole time? A while loop that keeps pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. There's no conflict possible there. You see? Because when you commit something, you're going to rebase immediately, locally, and push again, and you don't have like, you don't build up the conflict because you're working on different branches. We're going to see that. And this only works if we have what I call atomic change. An atomic change is the smallest change that can be shipped to production without breaking anything. You can create a component, unit test it, you don't use it in a view which is like public for the moment, but it's going to be in production. There's no problem with that. Why wait? And how can we do that? We will use TDD, so test-driven development. So you write your tests first, and you make them pass. And once they pass, you commit and push. But this version is a little bit different. And I started using this a while ago because one day I was refactoring some code. I was refactoring for like 5 minutes, but it ended up like in 4 hours of refactoring. And it was 3 a.m. I don't know if it happens to you. And so I went to sleep. And the day after, I reverted all my code. And from that, I swore I will never work for more than 30 minutes on something that I cannot commit, push, and even release without breaking anything. It's hard, but it's possible in most projects. And so that's what I call time box TDD. So there's a timer. Every time you start working on something, you run the timer. And once the timer is out, you choose the duration you want. It will revert the code, all your local code. I told you, it's extreme, but it's an idea of let's push it to the extreme and grasp how we can do that. And so if you don't commit and push, it's going to revert. So if you choose 1 minute, it's good, because if it reverts, it's all right. You remember, you have short memory. If you choose 2 hours, that can get risky, because if you lose 2 hours of code, well, I don't have this kind of memory. And the other idea, which is different, is called TCR, which is not mine. It's called test and commit or revert. And it's an idea from a guy in Oslo called Oddman. And they worked on it with Kent Beck from Extreme Programming, a couple of other guys here. And the idea is, the good news is there's no more timer, so that's cool. But so whenever the tests are passing, it's going to commit and push the code. But if the tests fail, it's going to revert all the changes. So you run the tests. If they pass, it's all right. If they fail, it will revert. OK, I'm not crazy. You can see that. It's kind of fun. Or maybe I am. I don't know. So Kent Beck's reaction was this one. Probably the same as you. So let's have the courage to try it. OK? I'm going to try it now. So I'm going to start with TTDD, time box TDD, and then we'll move to TCR just afterwards. OK, leaving this. Got share. Now this screen is my. This is my holidays album. OK, this is my IDE here. OK, great. OK. So just regular Angular project. I'm using Jests, thanks to Brebugs. They're here, by the way. Schematic that allows you to set up Jest quite easily on Angular project. And I'm going to start running my test now. OK? And I'm using IntelliJ or WebStorm, and I'm using a special plugin here, which is called Limited Whip. Oops. OK, and as you can see, there's a changed size watchdog, something that tells you, hey, you have more than 80 lines of changes. You should commit, push, or revert. And then there's this thing, which is auto revert, and it's enabled. So whenever I start working, I have 1 minute to commit or push. OK? So it's enabled, and it's here. You can watch it. It's small. It's just here. Auto revert is stopped. You can watch that corner. I don't know if you can see it well. And now look, I start coding. I hope it's working. So I'm describing my spec for a cart. OK. And I wanted to add items in it. So what am I going to add? I don't know. Like, let's add hummus. New item, hummus. Who's watching the code? Who's watching the timer? Okay, this is the price. Okay. I need a burger. Oh no, shakshuka. It was so good yesterday. Okay, shakshuka. I don't know how it's spelled. Shuka. Shuka. Don't cry. It's all right. It's ah. Oh. Ah. I should have copy pasted it. Oh, I can undo, but most of the time you're not working on one file, you're working on multiple files. So okay, I got to call Stanimara so she can code faster than me, or I can make smaller changes. Like either you choose the scope or the limit. So I'm creating a cart, I'm testing a cart, and I'm using just its .to-do that allows you to describe what you're going to do. Oh, I'm going to add items in my cart, and I also want to get the total price of the cart, and let's commit and push. I like to use emojis. There's a nice project for that. It's called Gitmoji. This helps you choose the right emojis. Okay, so add items to cart. And let's commit. Okay, I'm all right now. I'm safe. Now I can start working on this test. Of course, it's not passing. It will not pass because I will throw an error here. Oop. Man, it's lagging. Okay. So it's not passing, so I'm going to exclude it. And I'm going to use something I call CDD, Comments-Driven Development. I don't want to care about the framework, the code, or anything. I just want to describe what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a card. I'm going to create an item called hummus with a price of 5, I don't know what. Creates an item called shakshuka. Oh, sorry for the spelling. Shakshuka. And commit. Okay, can commit and push. And I also use this emoji here so I can know why this test is excluded. You know, I can commit this, by the way. And I can keep working on this. Now, get items from carts and check the content. Okay, good. So now I can start implementing my tests. I can commit this. And look at this. So, I'm going to create a cart. I'm going to create the hummus. And I'm going to create shakshuka. Starving. And item list. What time do I have? I can commit already. But the thing is, I'm using TypeScript, and I don't want to push this code because it's not compiling. If I was using JavaScript without like TypeScript, I could commit and push this because it's dynamic language and the test is not executed, so who cares? So, okay. Oh yeah, commit. You can remind me. Oh no, got to comment that out. I'm going to comment that out because I don't want it. I want it to compile. This is cheating, but I don't care. You're allowed to cheat. Who says you're not allowed? At least the cool thing is that I'm sharing my intention with my colleagues, my coworkers, and with you, so you can give me your feedback live. You know, like, why are you implementing this cart? We already have one. Ah, okay. Can I use it? Not yet. And I'm sorry, I have really something running in the background or what? Shakshuka. Oops, sorry. Just have time. Yeah. Okay, good. My test is ready. Oh no, I didn't add the items yet. Items. Okay, can commit this. It's still work in progress, I don't care. Okay, cart, add item, hummus, and cart, add item, shuck. What? Okay, good. Okay. And, oh, I forgot to comment that out. The previous commit is broken. Oh, sorry for that. Anyway, so now my test, I usually use a 5 minutes timer. I don't use 1 minute timer, it's too extreme. But anyway, so now I can do like the fun part. The fun part is generating the code with your favorite IDE and throw errors. Okay? Because up, item, throw whip, get item, throw whip. And look at this. I'll do something fancy here, is that I deprecate my methods because they're work in progress. That's very interesting because people can see that the code is there, it's on the repo, it's probably even in production or whatever, but they're not supposed to use it because it's work in progress. Okay? Why not share code like that? And now I can start implementing my thing. So let's make these, okay, properties public. This is cool. Can get rid of this exception. This is ready. So my item class is working. So even if I didn't finish my feature, my friends, my coworkers can already use the cart, the item, sorry. And I've got to commit. Cool. Good. And now let's add this one. And the cool thing with this approach is that when you're working on something and you get a Twitter notification, well, you don't care, because otherwise you will lose your work. So sometimes it's hard to explain to my fiancée when I'm like, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, working and I can't talk. Why? Because, you know, there's a timer. Why do you put a timer? I don't know. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't have done what I did at right now. I've removed the deprecation, but the code is not tested yet. So I'm taking risks. But anyway, I should have enabled my test before, by the way, too. So I could fix my errors. So now I can see, okay, item list is not an iterable. So it's because it wasn't initialized. So, okay, so my test is working. Great. I should have removed the work in progress comment. Well, anyway, my should add items is working. So this is for the TTDD. So I have my timer, and I can fix the duration of the timer, and I can commit whatever I want. So you customize it as you wish. And now let's use some let's use some TCR. Okay. So I'm using some code I've just copy pasted here, and with the 2 tests implemented, so cool, I can make my commit, add items, and count, and get total price. Well, anyway, okay. And now, look at this. I'm gonna stop this test watch thing, and I'm gonna use another command, test TCR, which is using a plugin I made for Jest that allows you to enable TCR. And the cool thing is that, look at this. So every time I make a change, like I do whatever I want, look at this, like let's change here the expectation, or let's make get total price starts with a bad amount at the beginning. And now I'm going to run the test, and the test fails, and look at the code. been reverted. So only your code is always working. But look at this. Now let's refactor, because I didn't take the currency into account. I'm just using like numbers, and I have to refactor. And TCR, I find it so perfect for refactoring, because it forces you to stay like compatible with the previous version of your code. So now I need a new parameter called price, with a price object, and keep this old parameter price and just call it price amount, and make them live together while the transition is done. So look at this. So now when I run my tests, well, there's no change. It's working, so it's not committing. And if I make some change and the test is passing, it's going to commit the code. So let's first, I hate named parameters, so I'm going to use, I hate ordered parameters, so I'm going to use named parameters here. Okay. And convert parameters to object. I hope the IDE has done a great job, because if my test fails here, it's going to revert my changes. Okay. Now the tests are passing, so my code was committed. Now, okay, this will now be called price amount. Okay, I don't know if it worked, because we never trust an IDE. And let's see, cool, so it's committed. And now let's add I need a price object, so this one will be the price amount. I run my tests, it's committing. Okay, move this. Okay, so I have the name. I'm going to add the price property with a price type. Let's create just a simple interface with the amount as a number, the currency as a string. Oh, sorry, I'm running the tests. Cool, it's passing. And now I can add my parameter. You see I'm doing things progressively. I'm moving progressively from one situation to the other, and I can stop whenever I want. And just tell me when. And here I got the price. Okay, I'm running my tests. Oh, test failed, so I got to revert. Okay, because now I can see my price is mandatory. It was not an optional parameter, and didn't give it. The only problem with TCR is that you get a report here of your error, but you don't have it. You don't have the code anymore. So it can be tricky sometimes. But anyway, the cool thing is that I can keep doing that and just, deprecating progressively this in favor of the item, that price, and I can document that, and I can keep working on that progressively and running my tests all the time. Okay, you get the point? So I'm going to stop right now for the refactoring and move back to the slides. And so the cool thing, as you can see here, is that you can make it work with both versions. So I can have price amount and price at the same time, and I can now add like the price parameter, just like this. But this time, I'm going to make them both optional. Let's run the tests. Okay, so you can do this progressively, then duplicate like the value here. If I don't have price, I could say, okay, then I'm going to add the amount, which is price amount, and the currency, which is like my default currency, like that, and ignore. I can commit that. So every time we can change, it's gonna commit, and here we go. Now I can progressively replace the price amount by price dot amount, and move progressively to that situation. Okay, so up. Okay. So if you want to try this out, here is the plugin. It's called WishTagJustTCR. You're going to find it on GitHub. Limbo is super hard, but you got to try it. You got to try it. It hurts at the beginning. You're going to have to revert. You're going to lose a lot of code. But just try it and see how low you can go. And if you can't make it, if you can't make TCR, if TTDD is hard too, just think about it. Just think about how we can code together. If this doesn't work for you, find out some way to code together. That's really the thing. We need collective ownership. So how do you get there? So the prerequisites are those. You need tests. Totally. If you don't have tests, you don't have confidence, and you cannot refactor your code, you don't have collective ownership. And merge frequently. Okay, you don't do TCR, don't do TTDD, at least merge your branches every day or every half a day, okay? Don't let your code rot in a branch. And try this. Try to reduce your work in progress limit. If you have a team of 7 developers, try to not work on more than 2 features at a time, or why not 1 feature at a time, okay? That will reduce the tunnel effect, like you wait 2 weeks before releasing 5 features. Why? Why not release a feature every 2 days if we all work together? But then it's tricky to all work together, but it's possible, okay? And the last thing, this is the common mistake I think we've been doing for years, is that we don't make a difference between deploying code and delivering features, releasing features. You have to deploy your code almost continuously, as much as frequently as possible. Then you control the release however you want, but usually with feature toggles, but then you're gonna need some tools for that, and this might be another talk someday, but really think about that. Think about like committing and pushing like your code and sharing it, and then control what you release using feature toggles, using flags that allow you to enable the feature or disable it or deploy it progressively or plan some deployments at some moment. Well, anyway, that's it for today. So just to remind you where I come from. So I'm from France. I work for WishTag. We do web development and extreme programming, security trainings. We do consulting and extreme programming coaching. So we love to like boost the teams we help to go really faster while keeping like good product quality. And we also do remote consulting sessions, like small sessions you can book, so we can answer your questions depending on what are your needs. And anyway, here are some links, so you can find me on Twitter. I'll be sharing my slides there. If you have any questions or if you want to go or any ideas, just shoot them through Twitter. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.